You'll recall that last month a massive government project full of lawyers and lobbyists and bureaucrats produced a report about Canada's residential schools for Aboriginal children. At least that was what the report was supposed to be about, but it wasn't really. The report produced by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was an entire political blueprint to remake every aspect of Canada. Economically, politically, legally, culturally. It was a bizarre document. I mean, I would actually like to know more about Canadian residential schools for Aboriginal people in the past and what happened. I truly would. Instead, what we got was a taxpayer-funded socialist handbook for the whole country. It will be ignored because it's nuts. Like I say, it was supposed to be about the truth about residential schools and then reconciling with that truth, making amends. I get it. So then why did that report call for a new national statutory holiday? Seriously, that was one of the nearly 100 recommendations of the report. Why did the report call for a ban on spanking? You heard me. The report called for the repeal of the criminal code exception that says parents and teachers can spank children without them being charged with assault. The report wants to repeal that to make spanking kids a crime in Canada. What on earth is that doing in a report about Aboriginal issues? What's with the new statutory holiday? What's with the call for increased funding to the CBC? What's that got to do with it? Do you see my point? I believe we need to fix problems like the Racist Indian Act that's not even mentioned in the report, but increased funding for the CBCs in there? I really think most politicians and most journalists didn't even read the thing. I mean, just the summary itself was 300 or so pages. It took me hours just to skim it to do my first commentary on it last month. But of course, Justin Trudeau immediately announced on Twitter that he would implement every single recommendation in the report. He sent that out so quickly, there was no possible way that he ever read the report, let alone consulted advisors, let alone consulted his MPs. But that's the point here. This whole exercise is an exercise in being a moral poser, pretending to care, not actually doing anything, but sure, posing for all the right photos, right, to show you care. Well, it took Canada's provincial premiers a bit more time, but they sure weren't going to be left out of the moral preening game. I see that this week they made an announcement from their premiers gathering in Newfoundland that they too were going to go ahead, like Justin Trudeau, and implement the Truth and Reconciliation recommendations on their own. All of them. Oh, really? So now Indian affairs are a federal jurisdiction. So they are a federal jurisdiction now. They're a federal matter. The Indian Act is a federal matter. Indian reserves are subject to a federal cabinet ministership. So this moral posing at the premiers is, at least Justin Trudeau could possibly theoretically do what he promised, but the premiers can't. But they can pose for the cameras, right? And do you really think that left-wing journalists would ever ask these premiers how they intend to do things outside of their provincial jurisdiction? Do you think those lovey-dovey journalists even know what those recommendations themselves are? Do you think even the premiers do? Hey guys, hey, I'll play along. Go ahead and start implementing this deal that you have obviously read so well. Go ahead, do the things you can. Bring in a new statutory holiday. Don't wait for the evil Stephen Harper. Start prosecuting parents for spanking their kids. Why not? Cut a big provincial check to the CBC. Nothing's stopping you. Yeah, what a bunch of hypocrites. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.